We'll call to order the May 3rd, 2010 meeting of the Ascension Gravity Drainage District. Madam Secretary, roll call. Please note that Councilman Thompson's not present. All right. I'd like everyone to please stand for the invocation. Remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen. Dear Lord, we ask that you look over our troops around the world. Lord, we ask that you look over everybody, and please look upon Louisiana and spare our coastline. Please give the folks in charge the wisdom to get the oil under control and to save our estuaries. We ask that all the people that were involved in the incident, that you pray for their families, that you take care of their families, and that you pray for the folks that are out there right now. We ask this in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Public comment. If anyone has anything they would like to speak on the agenda items, please sign in with the secretary. You'll be allowed 3 minutes. Agenda additions, we have none. The chair would now move on to item number 4, acceptance of the minutes of the April 5th, 2010 meeting.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion by Mr. Todd Lambert, second by Mr. Pat Bell. Any discussion? Any opposition? Motion passes. We'll move right into the chairman's report. One of the things I got right now is I'm really excited that some of our long-term goals, capital projects, we're starting to see some movement on them. Just last week, we went up. We had a party go up to witness the hydraulic modeling of the Marvinboro pumping station, the addition of the 2 pump bays with the new pump, and that went good. Right now we have somebody with BKI. We've got a little short presentation.
Thank you, Councilman and audience.
Henry Picard. Henry, I'm sorry. I just said someone with BKI. Henry, please.
Not a problem. Not a problem. What we'd like to do is show you a few slide pictures and some video that we shot while we were at the Alden Research Lab. It's a company we've worked with many times on some pump station models that we've done. And first setup is a simulation of the pump. As you can see, you've got the intake gates here, the bar screens. We've got the pump, what they call the formed suction intake, which is where the water goes into the pump, and then this would be the column of the pump itself. What they've got is some meters in the pumps to determine how much swirl there is in a pump. In a perfect world, the water will go directly up the pumps and not rotate as it goes through the pump, putting less wear on the bearings and the pump itself. The next photograph we've got is a gentleman you all know. Gives you an idea of the scale model of this model. It was roughly about 50 feet by about 35 feet, and it fully emulates the combination of the Severio Canal and the New River Canal. This is a model of one of the intake bays of the existing pump. As you can see, this is the existing bar screen configuration where we have water coming in from the sides plus coming in from the front. And one of the things that happens is we get a vortex. You'll see that a little bit better in the video we have. But this vortex, depending upon the severity of it, it can suck debris down into the pump, it can suck air into the pump, at which point it can actually start doing damage to the pump. And this will show us some of our potential problems with the intake screens. These are the 5 pumps, existing pumps here, and then this is the expansion of the 2 new pumps. All of this is done to a 1/23rd scale, straight off of our drawings, so that the bar screens are to scale, the pumps are to scale, and we get a complete rendition of that. You'll notice some gravel work here. I'll get a little bit better picture later on, but what they're doing is they're testing out some areas of low circulation based upon the excavation we had, and we were seeing some dead zones where the water is not flowing directly to the pump. And what we're balancing now is the point at which we get the minimum dead zone, but yet still directing it to the pump. What this is saving the parish right now is excavation cost that we will not have to do to feed the pumps properly. This is a little bit better picture, shows you this is looking into the direction of pumps off the New River Canal, and this is Severi coming from the side. We've got this point to direct the flows to the 2 groups of the pumps. Okay. This is excuse me, one of the existing pumps here. You can see this vortex. The vortexes are measured in a scale of 1 to 5. This is a type 2 vortex, which means it has drawn down and created a dimple in the water surface. Now, if you look at this, this is about a 1-inch dimple, and looking at a scale factor of 23 to 1, so this will be about a 2 feet drawdown in the vortex on the existing screens. We should be able to verify some of that with our pumping as we have today. We've got some video a little bit later will show some intakes. Shows some ability to improve that condition. These are the new proposed screens with the new proposed pumps. As you can see, we've got no vortexing in the pump systems that's proposed. And we'll show you some slides, video a little bit later. We've got a pretty good handle on the swirl, which calculates the rotation in the pump itself. They were injecting some blue dye here to try and enhance the swirl. Not all the pictures came out as great as possible. But that pretty much covers the slides we've got showing the vortexes. We're going to go now over to some videos we took while we were there. All right, let me see if I can get this up. Okay, there we go. This is the swirl meter that I was talking to you about. As you can see, this is a intake pump number 3, existing pump number 3. We've got a swirl meter on it, and our assistant Danny Kaluta and Chairman Kluwat were trying to indicate that this represents anywhere from 5 to 7 degrees of swirl. The recommended maximum allowance is 5. We're getting up to about 7.5 degrees of swirl on our existing pumps. You can see the vortex down below, and you can see the swirl in the pump itself. We want to try and eliminate both of these problems because the vortex can create cavitation in the pump. The swirl can create wear on your main bearings. We're going to go to the next video. It shows you the swirl and the swirl and the vortex is even better. We were able to catch it with the light, and what we did was we put a little bit of soap film on the thing to show how you've got a circulation pattern in the bay area. You can see the swirl in the pump itself. These are all the existing bays, and we were trying to come up with a solution for that situation. This is one of the existing pump bays. At the time, we'd come in and put on the extension of this is the existing screens, but they'd put in a fin down the center of this bay to try and fix the swirl issue. As you can see, that center vein is reduced some of the spin. So when we go through and do some improvements on the existing bar screens, we can do some improvements within the intake itself to remove that swirl. At that point, the pump bays will have to be dewatered down to replace the screen, and we can do the little, it's a vein to keep the water going straight into the pump. We can take care of that at that time. Let me go to another video. It shows you the difference between one with the vein, which is this pump here, versus the pump that doesn't have the vein in it. You can see the level of swirl that's been removed just by looking at the two different pump stations. We did have a very good trip, and we got to go through the tour of the Alden facilities. They did give us some modeling on the discharge side, which they've improved some velocities to try and eliminate the erosion we've got on the back side of the station. They are now in the process of taking and finishing up the testing and preparing their report. They're hoping to have that within the next 6 weeks or so. Yes, sir.
Henry, they had a gentleman from Shell here a while back that was concerned about flooding out the facility with Shell Exxon in the back.
Yes.
With the new pump that's coming on, if all 6 pumps were on at the same time, did y'all do a model on that to see what kind of flooding it would cause? Or if we went to a 7th pump, basically what would be the reaction there? Because they were very, very concerned about water.
Yes. We did not model that side of the discharge basin. One of the things that we would have to look at would be what their compressor station elevations are compared to flows coming out of the discharge. What we assumed on the discharge side, since we cannot close the pump station gates until elevation 2 or higher, and then whatever water we push into the waterway would increase that flow through that area. But at elevation 2, it's mostly overland flow with some in the channel, but it will go outside the banks and could impact the compressor station. But to what level, we don't know. We've gotten some records from Mr. Rue during the RETA event where there were some calls concerning the impact on that station, but we don't have any engineering data to know what the elevation of that compressor station is and how that overall wetland reacts when the pumps are all on.
I think it's important that we kind of look at that because we want to be good neighbors in that respect, and certainly don't want to, if we need to know what happens if we have 6 pumps on, because we have never had 6 pumps on before.
Right.
So if y'all would, I don't know, Bill, if you can have them look into that, I'd appreciate it.
And there's potential solutions that can be done if it is an isolated location. There could be like a ring levee put around that compressor station with some sumps in there to keep it pumped out. If it's a broader area, we could look at some type of ring levee, et cetera, that kind of deal.
I just, what we got also is at some point in time coming up the river from the Pontchartrain Levee District, the West Shore project. Yes, it is. It is going to be a while. I'm just saying that I think there's some long-term goals of that tying in.
The long-term goal on that is to complete the levee all the way into the existing Marvinboro pump station levee, and getting that compressor station, et cetera, in fact that entire field behind the protection levee. The wetland will remain wetland behind that levee, but it will at least be protected from higher water elevations.
What's the estimation of completion on that?
That's still in the study phase. The study will be going on through June of 2012, and then if the study is positive and authorized on for completion, that could easily be another 10-plus years till the levee's actually in place. It's a long-term project, yes, sir.
Thank
All right,
you
thank
very
you.
much, Henry. Yes, Mr. Shake Snyder.
Henry, along the same lines, did they do any modeling on the effect they would have on Panama Conway, because that's gravity fed, and I know if the water goes more towards the, I think, south on Pitty Mitt.
It would impact, and we have not done a specific study for the levee district. We are looking at some of the hydraulics and the impact of that with the West Shore study, but we have not completed that portion of the work yet.
Okay, I mean, I'd like to, I think it's important. I'm not, like President Martinez on.
I don't think anybody questions the impact of the pump stations on both the Bayou Conway, the Blind River system, because all of these channels right now eventually go to Blind River, which goes out to Maurepas. Any additional flow put into those locations will affect each other. The fact that Ascension has taken the initiative to put up their levees and pump stations, the parish has the advantage at this point in time that their stormwater flows will be, you know, pushed out, and then other areas are going to have difficulty in a high tide situation. Yes.
No, just if you take a look at it and see, there may be some places where you can put some rocks and direct the flow of water where it would not come back around as much.
The problem is when we are able to close up the gates, most of that area is underwater already. Ground elevation, what if you can't close the gates until elevation 2? A lot of that area on the outside of the protection levee is already at the top of bank or over the top of bank at that location. The immediate area right in the Marvinboro pump station is usually around 0 to 1, so it regularly goes under by the time we start pumping, and any other marshy area is going to have the similar situation there.
Just take a look at where you can divert the outflow as with at least effect as possible on that. We'd appreciate some sort of direction on that as to, or consequences on that.
Okay.
I'd appreciate it.
I'll get with Mr. Rue on those issues.
I can say one thing, Councilman, that you have to look at it from two aspects. Number one is, if we had no drainage levees, no pumping station, what would the elevation be under a normal rainfall downstream of that location, which is the shale and everything else? And we did some investigation of that years past. And the fact of the matter is, it would not, the pumping station being there is not making a huge impact south of it. If you take in consideration, we had no levees there because you had a lot more openings where water free flow into the Conway Basin, into the swamp areas and everything else. So the discharge rate would probably be about the same as we got at that central location if you open everything up. So the elevation, when somebody say that pumping station is putting more water on me than we did before we had any pumping station there, it's not accurate. I mean, if you really look at the practical aspect of it. But we can look at some data to actually support some of this.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Picard?
Randy.
Yes, Mr. Valentine.
Yeah, Henry, and maybe administration. I know they've had a couple of public hearings already, Corps of Engineers dealing with the siphon that they're talking about putting in St. James Parish. In fact, the last public hearing they had, it was like 51 people there. So do we have a presence? Does anybody, are you familiar with that? In other words, that's like Carnarvon, the Davis Pond, where they're talking about putting a siphon from the Mississippi River into the McElroy Swamp, which would also either raise the level of the water and at certain times of the year could create some problems for us.
We are, Klein Peters, tracking it through our work with the West Shore Levee for Pontchartrain Levee District. They have not cited a location yet. They'd like to have a freshwater diversion somewhere between Convent, could be as far north as Bayou Conway, but between the proposed one that they are going to have at Hope Canal. Now, the one at Hope Canal is currently being designed. That one will be a freshwater diversion to get past I-10 and then into the Tupelo Swamp that's
Right.
north of I-10. That one is under design now. The other one, they're looking for a location but haven't really determined one yet, but they've proposed several locations. One of them is Blind River, one is Bayou Conway, one is around the Convent area. They just haven't really formed up on one yet. They've got some people looking at it in coordination with DNR and what is now the CPRA group. But that study's still ongoing.
Okay.
And we have been in contact with them, in discussions with them about the possible location between this lower end, between St. James Parish and Ascension Parish. And we're going through the pros and cons of this. So they're keeping us informed of what's going on.
Right.
And CDM is handling some of that, I think. And we have been in contact with them in discussions.
Okay. Thank you, Bill.
Anything else? Thank you, Henry.
Thank you.
And like I said, once again, that was good modeling. Most of the scenarios that they thought would come through, we learned a lot about the suction intake and floodgate, and the screens. So some of the stuff that we're going to be looking at in the future. Also, the next thing on our capital projects that we got that I wanted to report on is that next week we have a team that's going up and witness the modeling for the Henderson Bayou floodgate and pumping structure, and so we have someone going up with that, and that's being handled by Camp Dresser and McGee, and we hope to get some good results out of that. It's a little bit more technical to the fact that this is a new basin that's being approached, and so the modeling we should see something really significant there. Whether it's proven, the engineer's proven on it. Anybody got any questions about that? That's all I got on my report. I just want to let everybody know that we are getting excited. I think some of the folks been working for multiple years on some of this stuff, and we've been working for the past couple of years. We hope to see it hit the ground and do some good for the people. Move on, Mr. Rue.
Yes, sir. Before you have the drainage reports, I won't go through it. It's pretty straightforward, with the exception of noting a couple of things, and that is in RCS debris removal. Bayou Conway is 45%, Bayou Verret 100, Bayou McCall 70, and they will be getting started on New River this week. So that process, that program is running pretty well. Haven't had much difficulty. And also on our pumping station, we're trying to get everything ready, for the hurricane season. We are, and it's on the agenda tonight, to look at hiring a contractor to come in and remove the cooling coil that we've been having problems with. So after we're going to contract that out, get the new one repaired and put back in. And also we're looking at, like Bert Kleinpeter indicated, we are looking at changing out the rakes and going to a better design, and we're going to be coordinating those activities with BKI to make sure we get the right rakes in place. And the rakes that we have now are being reinstalled. We have 3 of them repaired. They're going back in, and then we're going to pull the remaining 2, have them repaired. We should have everything back ready to go completely by the hurricane season. So again, I won't go through the rest of it unless you have questions. I'll be glad to answer now or at a later date.
I just want to impress upon you the debris removal from some of the canals that in anticipation of what we might be seeing. Stay on top of that. Anybody got any questions for Mr. Ruth? All right. Move on to item number 7. contract approval. Notice proceed wetlands permitting consultant. Mr. Rue?
Yes, sir. We have completed our negotiations with Hartman Engineering for wetland delineation permitting, and we are satisfied with those, the final contract. And we ask an authorization for Parish President to execute the annual retainer contract between Hartman Engineering and the East Ascension Gravity Drainage District Number 1 for wetland delineation and permitting consulting, and issue the notice to proceed.
So moved.
Moved by, who's that was? Todd Lambert, second by Mr. Shake Snyder. Any more discussion? Any opposition? Motion passed. Go on to item number 8, the Gonzales bulkhead change order number 1. Mr. Rue. the
Yes, sir.
extension.
This has to do with the intergovernmental agreement between Gonzales and East Ascension Drainage about the construction of a bulkhead along the extension of the bulkhead at City Hall now. They want to add an additional 84 feet to take it to a ditch that comes into the bayou. The total cost is, again, is cost share. Our cost is $5,460. Their share for material is $7,140, and we recommend the approval of this motion.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Dennis Collins, second by Mr. Dempsey Lambert. Any discussion? Any opposition? Motion passes. Move along to item number 9, the budget amendment, increase 05.063.4190 major repairs to flood controls, Marlboro Pumping Station, engine number 2 for the engine water coils. Mr. Rue.
Yes, sir. We tried to repair this in place and to no success. So what we're looking for now is actually a hire contractor to come in. We took 3 quotes on this and came up with the lowest quote of $29,500. Well, the first motion, what we're asking is to increase our budget amount in fund account 050634190 from $110,000 to $175,000 for necessary repairs to Marlboro Pumping Station.
So moved.
We have a motion by Mr. Shake Snyder, second by Mr. Pat Bell. Discussion. Mr. Lohr.
Mr. Rue, just curious, the motion is to move from $110,000 to $175,000, the $65,000 difference, but the quote is for $29,500.
That's right.
So what's the extra?
The extra amount is for miscellaneous. We got to, we're looking at doing some more repairs to the rakes. And this takes in most of the incidental repairs to the rakes. The other thing is, we don't know exactly what the repair is going to cost. This quote of $29,000 and change is just to pick it up, put it on the bank. Then we have to do the repairs. We don't know what the extent of that will be, and then put it back in place. The cost is just to remove it and put it back in place. But we have no idea what the repair is going to be until we get it on bank. So we wanted to put enough in there to make sure we have enough to take care of any kind of subsequent repairs.
Just a quick note on that. This is underwater where you can't really...
Right. You can't see.
You can't investigate it too good right now.
That's it.
But on the new ones, we do have we have an engineered design that we will have access to those. And so...
And again, we just want a little bit of leeway in there. And we'll come back with the final figures on the whole cost. But again, it may be an extreme amount of money to actually, we may have to replace some of the coils themselves, whole pipe instead of just welding. So we want to have the leeway there.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Any opposition? Motion passes. We'll move on to agenda item number 10, approval and authorize the parish president to execute the contract, E&E Industrial Services, Marlboro Pumping Station Coolant.
And again, this is an extension of the last motion. This is actually the hiring of E&E Industrial Services. They were low bid on this project, and we asked for authorization to execute the contract.
We have a motion by Mr. Todd Lambert, second by Mr. Dennis Cullen. Any discussion? Any opposition? Motion carries. Chair would entertain a motion to move into executive session.
Second.
Claim for breach of contract against Carla Cormier and Associates. We have a motion by Mr. Bell, second by Mr. Lohr. We'll now go into executive session.
Get the roll call, Chair.
Roll call.
Mr. Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Bell,
Yes.
Mr. Lambert,
Yes.
Mr. Lewis.
Yep.
Valentine,
Yes.
Mr. Collins.
Yes.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Motion to reconvene?
Second.
We have a motion to reconvene the meeting by Councilman Dempsey Lambert, second by Councilman Chris Lohr. Any discussion? Any opposition? We're back in session.
I'd like to make a motion that we ask legal counsel to pursue litigation for breach of contract against Carla Cormier and Associates doing business as grant finders.
We have a motion by Mr. Lohr. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Mr. Dennis Cullen. Any discussion? Any opposition? Motion carries. We'll move on to number 12. Mr. Lambert?
Motion adjourned, Mr.
We
Chairman.
have a motion to adjourn by Mr. Todd Lambert,
Second.
second by Mr. Dennis Cullen. Any opposition? Motion carries. We are adjourned.